All right. Last normal day with equations. Doesn't mean we're not going to come back to it. Doesn't mean we're never going to see equations again. Just means we're going to start doing a couple of other things here. So I am going to attempt to help you out a bit. Because you're like, these kind of are starting to look a little bit different. Because you're like, I still want to work on getting x by itself, but now I see this big fraction there. So how is this going to work? So here's what we're going to do. My number one goal is I need to get rid of the big fraction first. Then I can do whatever's left. So to get rid of the big fraction, to get rid of the divide by 9, we would. So we're going to multiply both sides by 9. Now here's the thing I've got to be careful of. I see parentheses. I'm going to think about distributing. I've got an electric one over there. Oh, okay. All right. So those 9s cancel. So when I do the multiply by 9 here, its whole job is just to cancel this 9 out. Right. Whatever's up top, we leave alone. So in this case, the x minus 15 for right now gets left alone. Is whatever's over here. So then, what do I do to get the minus 15 away from my x? Add the 15. I agree. Okay, hang on. No, we're not to number 6 yet. Patience, 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 my dear man. Okay? Let's just make sure we're doing okay here. Let's take a peek at number 2. What do I need to do first on number 2? Okay, times by whatever's down here in the bottom of my fraction. So times by negative 3. Again, that'll cancel. Because since my first job on these is always to get rid of the big fraction part, and anytime you have a fraction that's dividing by something, I'm always going to multiply first on the big fractions. Make sure that I get rid of that first, and then minus the 8. Good. And again, I get my answer that way. So you're like, all right, maybe. This might be all right. So let's see here. Let's jump to number 5, and then I will get to number 6 right after. Okay, we'll do 4 instead of 5. Oh my gosh. All right. What do I have to do first to get that 5 out of there? Okay, times. Always going to do that first when it's the big fraction. Those will wipe out. Because that negative 2 is directly attached to my x, the 4 is the first thing I've got to get out of there. So since I'm adding 4 to negative 2x, what's the opposite? We have to minus that 4. Okay, we got one more step on this one. Well, let's see. Right now, let's take a peek here. Right now, I'm multiplying x times negative 2, because my minus, my minus isn't between the 2 and the x. So this is multiply. Like Marcus said, the opposite of that would be to divide. And 26 divided by negative 2 is negative 13. So I might get one more step in there sometimes, depending on if there's a number in front of my variable or not. Now, some of these will still be like the ones we were doing yesterday, though. Because notice, once we get past number 5, the big fraction stops. And it goes back to smaller ones. This minus 4 is right here. Yeah, I'm adding 4 to that, so I'm just doing the opposite. I'm minus it. Okay? Any other thing going question-wise so far on those first ones? Because we need to clean something up. I want to do that. I'll come back to it momentarily. So number 6. There's what I'm trying to get by itself. How do I get that negative 6 out of there? Add 6. Because you'll notice this time I see that plus in there. So that means we're playing the add and subtract game. So those cancel. Yeah, because since I'm dividing u by 8, I have to do the opposite. The opposite of dividing by 8 is to times by 8. Again, then those cancel out. And then I get my answer that way. So the process is always going to be the same. Okay, you guys are going to talk me through number 5. I'm not going to complete it, because let's use number 4. Use number 4 as your example. Okay, hang on. Because I want to see, the people that are not sure, I want to see what they're thinking here, because I want to help out. So, on 5, what should I do first? Okay, we times 5, because that's what's in my big fraction that I need to get rid of. Okay. Oh, I think somebody may be panicking because you're not getting a whole number. So, okay, so that's 80. So now I got to work on getting my x term alone. So we got to plus 7 or add 7. Right. Now, just like when you notice over at number 4, once I get to this step, since I'm multiplying by 3, I'm just going to divide by 3. It is. It's just a process kind of picking away at the things that are furthest away from my x until I get finally to that answer, so I get that x by itself. Okay, now think about it like we did kind of with the other one. How do I get rid of the fractional part? I'm going to times by 7. So that negative 2 is still there. It hasn't gone away. So now that I'm multiplying by negative 2, let me move that up some. We have to divide by negative 2. And again, that's not going to be where I add because I'm multiplying here. And the opposite of multiply is divide. So that's how that works. The same way. What's the first step you would do? Oh, it's okay. Yeah, just kind of, that's what I'm kind of trying to work with you into here. Just kind of looking at these. So let me jump down a little. Let me go right below 7. Let's look at 11. Because these on the bottom here are actually going to run really similar to what 7 through 10 would. Here's my goal. My first goal is to get that by itself. How do I get the plus 3 out of there? Subtract. Well, that's okay because we get into habits on these sometimes. It's like, ooh, I multiplied on the last one, and it's like, oh, no. You can get decimals. Yep, you absolutely can. Okay, so I've got that set. How do I get rid of that 3 on the bottom? Multiply it by 3. Because we do not want the fraction. We always can get rid of a fraction by multiplying by whatever the denominator is at the bottom is. Last step on 11. I'm multiplying by 2, so we're going to divide by 2. And get an answer. And that's kind of, this is going to be another one of those things where you might have been like, all right, I'm okay with the shorter one. All right, I'm even okay with the fraction. So, for instance, Let's say we jump down to 16. I want to do a story problem here with you. The quotient, what's a quotient? Division. Okay, so the quotient, which is like a fraction bar, of the difference of x and 6, difference, it's like minus. So the difference of x and 6 and 2. So let me read that fully. The quotient of the difference of x and 6 and 2. So they want you to take the difference and then divide it is equal to 5. But then I have to solve this. Times 2, because I want to get rid of the fraction. Yep, and how'd you get to that? Yep, and then just add 6. Do the opposite. And we're set. So, I mean, there is, depending on the way the problem looks, that first step may be to multiply, it may be to add, it may be to subtract. We're just trying to work our way toward getting that variable by itself. And some of the same type of problems continue as you flip over, which gives us a chance to look at a couple more things here. So here's what I want you to do, and then we'll talk about the bottom. Pick 3 more problems up in this top area that you'd like to see. Give them a good looking over. 20, who see the big numbers working? All right. 22, ooh, fractional and plus minus. No, that would include more than 3 numbers. I can't believe I'm not hearing anything in those last 4. 28. Okay, let's start with those. So let's see, 20. First goal is to get my W fraction here by itself. So since I'm adding 250 to it, what's the opposite? Minus it. Minus the 250. Okay, so that takes care of that part. Now, I don't like fractions either. Times the 7, since we're dividing it. The last rows. Now, let's see. On this one, I got a question. Is this one going to be add 5 or divide by negative 5? Divide by negative 5, because I'm multiplying those together. My opposite is going to be divide, then I get my answer. And so you kind of start to see why I talk about needing to at least show a step somewhere, because if we don't, that kind of would be hard to do. I think I'd have an issue doing it in my head. So let's see. 22 looks like we're in a similar situation. Want to get my x term alone first. So how do I dump that plus 12? Subtract it. Subtract 12 from both sides. Now what? How do I get rid of the fractional part now? Times by whatever number's down here. Once we get the x term by itself, multiply usually is going to be that next step. We want to get rid of the fraction. In my last step, instead of multiply, the opposite is going to be divide. One piece at a time. Unless your x is in an entire big fraction like it is maybe in like 21, you're usually going to be adding or subtracting something first. So when we get to one like 28, same idea. Get that fractional part alone. So how do I get the plus 12 out of there? Subtract, that's the opposite of add. And again, if the whole adding and subtracting thing tends to get you sometimes, double check with a calculator. There's nothing wrong with that. And now start to look at what we did in 20 and 22 to figure out what your next step is going to be. You look up there, you're like, ooh, when I got to the fraction part, I multiplied by the number on the bottom, the denominator. And then my last step, yep, since I'm multiplying, is to divide. Okay? So you start to see kind of how the process works with these. So then when I do get to the bottom, it's kind of a little mini review. Yes, ma'am. Well, since I'm dividing by 3, my first step... Oh, you already did that part, okay. Let me get caught up to you here then. Okay, since there's a sign in between my number and x, now it's like add, subtract. So I want to get that positive 15 out of there. So what's the opposite of adding 15? Minus it. And then the little trick is there's still a negative with my x that I have to take care of. So yeah, and see, notice now there's no sign in between the number and x. So that's a multiply and the opposite of multiply. Yes, but I wouldn't go so. I don't have a problem calling it an opposite, but if it was absolute value, that would be a little bit different of a story on this one. Yes. So if you see a negative just sitting in front of the x, that would be like having a negative 1 there in front of it. So then as we get to the bottom again, slide this up a bit. And if we have some other issues, we'll come back to them. Remember on these, we're trying to find two numbers that multiply to get the number on top, add to get the number on the bottom. But those same two numbers have to work for both of them. Ooh. I always do. Okay. 15. No, that doesn't work. Oh, Harty, why are you using it? Because I gave away my phone. What are some numbers I can multiply to get 30? Even if you think they don't work for this one, just name them. Okay. So we've got 6 and 5. But unfortunately, 6 and 5 can't get me to 13. What else? If you're not sure, just take 30 and start dividing by some numbers until you find something that works. What else goes into 30? 10, 10 and what? Can 10 and 3 get to 13? Yes. And they both have to be negative. Because negative 10 times negative 3 is positive 30. Negative 10 plus negative 3 is negative 13. So that works. And then the only thing we've got left down on the bottom is a little practice with distributing here and combining like terms, which is a good thing because some of you had some issues with that on the test. So just in my first set of parentheses, when I multiply the 3 through, what's that going to look like? What's 3 times 2x? Well, 6x. And then 3 times 1 is 3. What about my second set of parentheses when I multiply the 5 through? 5x minus n, but I'm not done. What can I put a like that's there? 3. The x's can go together. If I have 6 and I have 5 more, it's 11. And watch your signs with these. That matters. Yep. I have positive 3 and negative 10. So again, think money. I have $3. Ooh, but I went and spent 10. Now I owe somebody 7. So your job is to work through these other ones. Again, use the ones that we've already done kind of as a guide, kind of like you would an instruction book, and work through. And again, we'll have tomorrow, I'll have answers up for these so you can see how they're going, or if you do a couple and you're like, I think I got this, here, check these couple out, I can do that for you too. But again, whenever you're getting done with these, whether it's Fridays or yesterday's or even this one, just make sure they make it into the tray up front there. My lovely high quality tray. And we'll make sure that we get those in for you.